This video was brought to you by Embedded System Solution, a company composed of like-minded electrical engineers, computer engineers, and computer scientists, and whose main goal is assisting our engineering customers, non-engineering customers, and technician level customers with their electrical and computer engineering level and technician level needs. Our customers range everywhere from engineering students to university professors, technicians to engineers, junior engineers to senior engineers. Please feel free to visit us at www.embeddedSystemSolution.com. Again, www.embeddedSystemSolution.com, or better yet, email us at support@embeddedSystemSolution.com. And like always, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like. Okay, so now we're getting to where the rubber meets the road, right? And so in this training session, we're going to cover installing Git. And even though you probably already have experience installing applications, I guarantee you, every single video that you watch from us, you learn something new. Every single video that you watch from. So you've installed probably hundreds of applications in your lifetime, but watch, you're gonna learn something new. I promise you. So anyways, so to install Git on a Windows computer, obviously, you go Git download, and the first, you type in the URL, the search engine, download Git. Simple enough, basic, right? But here's the thing that's kind of interesting. You have 32-bit Git for Windows or 64-bit. Which one do you install, right? And like I said, I promise you, you're going to learn something new, even though you're like, okay. So you have two versions of it. Okay. So when you install Git, where does it get installed, right? So you're going to click on download. It's going to download the installer. But where exactly does it get installed? Now, it's in the C drive, which is the hard drive, right? So the C drive represents basically the hard drive, not the RAM, right? It's where it has the file system. So if you double click on it, this is what you get. Now, inside of the C drive, you're going to see two directories, right? You see? So it's program files and program files x86. So what's the difference between them? Well, back in the old days, you only had one program files. And currently nowadays you have two program files, and in the future I predict that you're only going to have one program files. So what is program files? Why? Well, there's where every single application, whether it be Microsoft Outlook or Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or what other applications are popular, any type of application that you install, Notepad++, it's just GIMP, Photoshop. Every single one gets installed in one of those two directories. Now, back in the old days, the computers were 32-bit. Now, in fact, all computers, all laptops, and even desktops, especially desktops, they're 64-bit. So 32-bit in terms of PC, it's gone away, right? And so that's why they did it for backwards compatibility. So it's for backwards compatibility. So some applications, they're old and they haven't been updated and they're only available for 32-bit. Well, you can still install them on a Windows computer, except it goes into a program x86 folder. The program x86 folder is backwards compatibility, and it's the 32-bit folder. So any application that you download and you install and it's 32-bit, it goes into that folder. If you install the 64-bit, then it goes into the program files folder. In my opinion, it would have been better if they would have named it Program Files 64 and Program Files x86 instead of Program Files x86, Program Files 32. It would be more clear, but that's the way it is, right? And again, it's for backwards compatibility. So new computers, new laptops, so I covered everything. So anyways, so the question is, so which installer do you download and which one and why, right? And you might think, oh, I already know, but check this out. So to understand the computer, to fully understand a computer is composed of both hardware and software, correct? It's two different fields. In fact, if you're studying electrical or computer engineering, it's two different fields, and you master one field or the other one, but you can't. It's really difficult to master both. And so you have two perspectives of the computer, and unless you learn both perspectives, you can't fully understand the computer. So let's go through this, right? So first is obviously the software perspective, right? And you have the hardware perspective now. Hold on, don't skip on the video, right? So hardware perspective, obviously on the bottom, the stack, you have the hardware, which is the CPU, the RAM, the hard drive, and even peripherals, but that's beyond, we don't want to go too much into detail. The only thing is hardware is everything you can touch, even the motherboard, but it's mainly, those parts, peripherals, CPU, RAM, and other parts, and hard drive, and the list goes on and on. So anyways, so on the software perspective, on the top of the hardware, you have the operating system. The operating system interacts directly with the hardware. So no application interacts directly with the hardware. It's the operating system, the one that tinkers with it. And then on the stack on top of the operating system, you have the applications, which, you can have, I don't know, from 50, 60, 70, 80, I don't know how many applications, some of them GUI based, some of them not GUI based. But yeah, the applications, whenever they need a resource, they make a system call to the operating system, and the operating system is still that one that actually touches the hardware and tinkers with it, and it gives the illusion that every single application has the hardware to itself. So that's one of the purposes of the operating system. But again, beyond the scope of this, so the only thing that you have to know is that those are the stacks. Now, on top of the applications, you have the files. Applications generate files, and like in this case, so an example of another application is Photoshop, Photoshop, or an application that just generates file. I'm thinking of one like an application to take a picture. Whenever you take a picture, you launch the application, it takes a picture and it generates files. It happens to be JPEG files or MP4 files, but the application, in this case, a picture application from your cell phone, it only generates files, right? It's to store the data of the application. But there are some applications that only read files and they don't necessarily generate files. So think of a media player like VLC. VLC, you use it to watch videos or stream, or there's actually different purposes for VLC, but still, think that's a media player, and you can that's only input files. It doesn't generate files, right? And so finally, we have applications that both that read and write files, and that would be like Notepad or Microsoft Word. When you open up the application and you do file open, you're actually reading the file. You edit it and then you do a file save, and so you're writing to the file. So there's some applications, again, there's different type of applications, and that's the software layer. Now, if you're a network admin, you kind of know that the files is what you back up. You don't back up the applications or the operating system. You only back up the files. I know. Anyway, let's keep going. So now, from the hardware perspective, you have way at the bottom, you have obviously the hard drive. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself, but the hard drive is the one that has like 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. These hard drives, the amount of memory, the amount of storage that they have every day astonishes me. Like the first computer I think I had a laptop at 256 megabytes, not even a gig. Now it's common to see laptops with 1 terabyte. Wow, and even bigger. So anyways, but the hardware technology, as you know, there's two type of hard drives, solid state and disk drive. But anyways, so that's where the application and the operating system are permanently stored. So again, this is beyond the scope, right? But only be aware that the hard drive and the RAM is where applications actually get executed, right? And so that's another. And way at the top, you have the CPU, and so typically you have the operating system, which gets loaded from the hard drive to the RAM, and that's where it gets executed, right? And the same thing with applications. They launch from the hard drive to the RAM, and that's where they get executed, because the CPU can only see to the RAM. It can't actually execute to the hard drive. That's computer architecture. The courses on it, again, we cover that too, and there's a specific reason for it as well. Anyways, so those are the two different perspectives that you have in terms of a computer, and you must master them both in order for you to fully understand what a computer is. So here we have an example, obviously Git, right? We're trying to install Git. That was the whole purpose of the video, right, of this training session, at least this video, this series. But it asks you that there's a 32-bit installer and a 64-bit installer, correct? Now, so from the hardware perspective and the software perspective, we have 32 and 64-bit installer. Which one do you choose? The answer might seem obvious, but check this out. Operating system that you have on your laptop or your desktop, it might be 32-bit or 64-bit. Just the operating system, right? Now, on top of that, you have the CPU of the computer, which is something different. It can also be 32-bit or 64-bit. So it kind of makes you wonder, it's like, which one do I pick and why? If you have a 32-bit CPU and 64-bit CPU, and you have a 32-bit and a 64-bit operating system, it's kind of like, wait, which one do I choose? Well, you always try to choose the operating system. Whatever operating system you have, that's the one that you choose. Don't choose the CPU. Although 32-bit CPU is going to typically have a 32-bit operating system, but you can emulate a 64-bit operating system. But a 64-bit CPU will always try to have a 64-bit operating system. You don't want to restrict your computer. You want to you want to get the most out of it. So of course, if you have a 64-bit CPU, you install a 64-bit operating system. So anyways, so the installer that you choose, just try to make sure that it's the one that corresponds to the operating system. And to figure out what operating system you have, just a quick Google search will show you which one on Windows is it. But just keep mindful of that. So that's the one that's the installer that you pick. So hopefully you learned something, right? And by the way, I forgot to mention this, right? So I don't know if I'm gonna insert it, but whenever you buy a new laptop, if you notice those little stickers that it has on the computer, even the PC, they always, whenever you're buying a laptop or a desktop, they always show off to you three different things. One is the CPU, one is how much RAM it has, and the other one is how much hard drive it has. And so there is a reason behind that, in case you don't know. But anyways, so hopefully you learned something, and thank you. Bye.